It's August 3rd at 6 o'clock, so we will start the school board meeting for Independent School District 882. With that, we will need to go on to the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Melissa Curtis, second by Jennifer Lewis Canigator. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Melissa?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Missy? Missy Hansen?
Aye.
Candace Carta?
Aye.
And Jill Hoffman, aye. So motion to approve the agenda is passed 6-0. We continue on to the citizens' comments. I do not believe we had any requests, Jill?
We did not.
All right, we'll continue on to the consent agenda. Board members, you received your packet. And if you don't have any questions regarding any of these things that have been presented to you, it is also an action item.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Melissa Curtis, second by Jennifer Lewis Canigator. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Melissa Curtis?
Aye.
Jennifer Lewis Canigator?
Aye.
Jeff Hagley?
Aye.
Missy Hansen?
Aye.
Candy Carta? Candy?
Aye.
And Jill Hoffman, aye. Consent agenda passes and is approved 6-0. We'll continue on to our summer programming update. We have a whole district of program leaders that will start with Anna Morphew, continuing on to Clay Norman and Kathy Hamill, and on to Jeremiah Mack and Matt Colwell. So we'll kick it off with Anna Morphew.
So I'm Anna Morphew. I co-coordinated the program with Kara Radke. And this was our second year. Go to the next slide. So this was our second year, and our main goal this year was to serve more students, especially once everything got crazy with COVID. And so last year we had 26 students. For 15 days, we expanded to 20 days this year, and we served 31 students. So we did meet that goal. You could go to the next one. So we were all distance learning, and one of the big things that we did is we had a large group Google Meet with our kids of all ages every day and all of the staff members. And it was a time to kind of share what everybody was working on. And then we had a question of the day that everybody got to share their ideas about. Next slide. And then one of the things that we did is we had deliveries twice a week of food and supplies. And so we sent home a lot of supplies for art projects. And that was definitely the highlight for a lot of the kids. So this was one, we sent home little mini 4x4 canvases and paint with a sticker decal for their first initial. And then the next one, we also did some clay projects, and you can see I kind of had the idea that they were going to make these little pots with lids, and they all just did their own thing, and it came back wonderful. So really creative group. Next slide. And then here's just some of the other miscellaneous art projects. We had one art project and one STEM project every week. Next one. And one of the highlights of the program last year was using the Legos and the Connects that we got from the Midwest Migrant Resource Library. And we couldn't do that this year since the kids are at home. So I did a Donors Choose project and got each kid a set of Legos that they had at home with them that they were able to build things. So we did some math activities, some reading activities, and just some fun building. The next one is some of our STEM projects. We did little catapults with the spoons and popsicle sticks, and a straw tower challenge, and different building challenges. Another big highlight of the program, and you can see from that snapshot there that Mr. Olson was able to join us for one of our Cooking Matters classes. This we partnered with Wright County and the U of M Extension, and we offered it for our 5th graders and up. And every week they would get the supplies that they needed, the materials and food. And they made trail mix, yogurt parfaits, nut butter and banana wraps with honey and cinnamon, ants on a log, and a juice and seltzer drink. And then the ladies would teach them about nutrition and My Plate. And they also learned about fitness and got jump ropes, frisbees, and step trackers. So that was a really big highlight for our older kids. We also purchased Rosetta Stone for some of our lower level English learners. And I just wanted to share this because this was just amazing. 2 of our students' siblings, I purchased it the night of July 7th. And as of July 30th, the student going into 4th grade had practiced on Rosetta Stone for 8 hours and 33 minutes. And the student going into 9th grade had practiced for 16 hours and 19 minutes. These 2 were like our most dedicated students. And I logged in this morning and they are still practicing. So still hard at work. The learning continues. And then finally, just to share some of the things we provided for our families. The Sheridan Story provided food that the food bags for the backpack type program. We did breakfasts and lunches for all the children in the families, ages 1 through 18 on the program days. We sent home school supplies so that the kids could use it for the program and then be ready to go for the school year. We couldn't have a big family night this year, obviously. So we sent home a deck of cards, some math game ideas, gummy bears, and microwave popcorn so that the families could have their own family fun night. We sent home cloth face masks that were made by my mom, my grandpa, and Kara's mom, along with information about COVID-19 to help support those families. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Ellie Michaelis. She was our K4 teacher and also our lead teacher. And she was our one full-time teacher. And she would log on and send the kids a Google Meet link every morning. And she was on that video chat all day. So if they were working on their work at the time that, worked for them, they could hop on and ask her any questions. So I thought that was a great idea. So that's just a brief summary of our 2nd year of our program.
Awesome presentation, Anna, and what a program and a testament to you and Kara for your vision, your idea, and then bringing it to fruition. And even during the times of COVID, you were able to grow your program both in numbers and just when you look at overall quality of diverse experiences that you provided this year, just really shows and highlights your creativity as a teacher and program.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was amazing to see, we had students that we knew from last year and from Monticello during the regular year. Then we had new students, and I didn't know how well we'd get to know them over Google Meets, but their personalities really shone through and we got to know them really well. So.
Well, thank you to everybody who's working that program. And it's so important that we meet these families where they are and providing these services. So thank you to Kara and all of the other staff who are just rocking it and doing such a great job with this.
Thank you.
We can continue on to summer targeted services with Mr. Norman and Ms. Hamill.
Clay's going to start us tonight.
All right, good evening. So I'll give a brief overview here of our summer targeted services program this past summer. And this is representing Eastview, Little Mountain, and Pinewood. So we served students grades K through 4. We had 10 of last year's kindergartners. This year they'll be first graders. 33 students from Little Mountain, 29 from Pinewood. We were pretty pleased with those numbers. Usually there are more during the summer, but we knew coming off of distance learning all spring that parents were probably going to hesitate to sign up for more distance learning. So we were pleased with the amount of students that we did get. And we had some really great work done by our teachers during this program. So the dates were July 6th through July 23rd, Monday through Thursday. Student time was 9 to 11 with staff time being 8 to 12. So they were available during that time for students and families, but it was a little bit more narrowed down time with the students. And it was distance learning, but I'll say it was distance learning with improvements as compared to March when we kind of just had to jump in. And then the next slide here, we kind of had to find our way. And so there was some great collaboration between Kathy, myself, and Joe, talking a little bit about a vision and how we wanted it to look different. And then the teachers were phenomenal and really jumped in. Our focus right from the start was on improving what we learned from the past few months in the spring, and then hitting the summer with just a different way of doing it. And one of the big helps that you're going to see here in the next couple slides was the resources we had, because we definitely had more resources this time around than we did previously. Now, if Kathy go through kind of what worked and what we're looking to continue to improve on.
Absolutely. And before I start with what worked, I'd like to read just a sentence I received from one of my teachers, Kim Nygaard, who taught the 3rd, 4th grade, soon to be 4th, 5th grade. And she said, I can honestly say I feel so much more successful with this group in the past 2 weeks and not as discouraged as I've found myself at times in the spring with 30 students that I had established a relationship with. And so I start with that because there were some really positive things that worked with this program. It was a balance of online and hands-on learning. They started their day with a daily Google Meet, which is how they took attendance. The teachers were able to send materials home. We did a first drop of materials on the very first day of school. They thought that that was super important. 8 o'clock in the morning, they got their little bag of supplies. 9 o'clock school started. So right away, the engagement was huge. We did have some teachers that did a second drop halfway through just to keep them engaged, which worked out really well. And in those, in the materials that were dropped off were the STEM activity materials and then projects that they would use. We used Google Meets. They also used the platform Seesaw, and that was good too. So the teachers could review their work and they could also see how they were doing with their STEM activities. And then I heard a lot from teachers about being able to work with small groups of kids. That was super helpful. And of course, the teachers were able to record some lessons. So parents, their schedules didn't always match up, but they certainly could look at them at a different time. I also think it's worth noting that one of our programs, and like Clay said, we collaborated together. We did run an EL summer school. So Ana Dominguez was one of our teachers. It was a 1st through 4th grade group of kids. And she just did a great job. We did have kids from Pinewood join that group. And that was significant too, because the learning curve for technology and Seesaw and some of the language barriers for that group of students was super hard in the spring. So it really was, once they kind of caught on, it was a nice extension of the school year for some of those families where they could keep working. So those were the things that really did work for them. The next slide has to do with areas of improvement. Of course, continuing to engage the students. It's not always easy to have a group of 1st and 2nd graders. Some of them are on mute, some of them can't sit down and sit still for a long period of time. So we're still working on those engagement pieces, making sure kids attend and their accountability. And then how parents should or should not help. Obviously, we love parent input and parent help, and we need them when we have to troubleshoot for technology, but then also knowing, where are the kids been at skill-wise, and how can we get a really good feel for that independent learning. So those are some of the challenges and areas of improvement that we certainly need to continue to work on. So, and like Clay said, our teachers were phenomenal. And just like, Anna thanked her teacher, Ellie, Clay and I would like to thank our summer school teachers. Like I mentioned, Ana Dominguez did the EL. Kim Nygaard, the third, fourth, Lee Tracy, the first, second, and then we did have Lisa Anderson teach the kindergarten class. And then I'm gonna have Clay, you can go ahead and talk about your teachers and then you can conclude.
Yeah, just on the next slide. And Ellie Walburn did a first, second group. And excuse me, I think Ellie actually had all first grade, and then I believe Danielle Smith had some second and third grade. And then we had a few fourth grade that worked with Little Mountain teachers. So good collaboration. And again, this was a group that came together and brainstormed together and then came up with some things that really worked. So it was a much improved program. Any questions?
Pretty neat to hear you guys talk about collaboration and just seeing, you know, the collaboration between buildings, the collaboration between leaders, the collaboration that goes way back to some of our admin meetings, and knowing that we had to keep improving if we were going to increase engagement. And you guys are kind of the model for how we are practicing that engagement and trying to do school differently through the distance learning format. So I really, really appreciate you being leaders and taking on this challenge. I know when we first talked about it, you know, it was hard to maybe wrap our heads around getting kids excited for something that we were just doing, but instead of doing just what we were doing, you made improvements to it. And, you know, that testament from Kim really was telltale of how successful you were. So thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, thank you so much for that. And it's, yeah, I have lots of questions, but in the interest of time, I'll shoot you some emails if I think of some more. But really, it seems like there was a solid adjustment from what you had learned in the spring to the targeted services and doing it online and doing it more in that Google Meet setting more consistently. Did it feel a lot different to the staff?
Yeah, I definitely. You know, one of our teachers said this morning that it felt like actually teaching. You know, I think they felt that was really missing there with the distance in the spring. Okay. So that increased interaction definitely made a big difference for teachers and students. And the parent feedback that I have heard so far was really positive.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
I agree too.
Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of our teachers were fearful at the end of last year, thinking, if I don't know my kids, how am I going to start a new year with them? And I think Kim's, you know, just Kim's few short sentences said it all. I think she feels really good about that this can be done through an online distance learning platform. And yeah, I felt really good about it.
That's really promising given our current situation, and we don't know how it will look moving forward. So that's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much, both of you, for that information and presentation. We'll continue on with Summer Community Ed, Mr. Mack.
Well, good afternoon or evening. I'm going low tech today. No slides. All of our fun stuff over the summertime. As you know, Community Ed is a lot different this summer than it has been in years past. I think this is probably the first year we have not done a catalog of any kind in the summertime. So we did all of our marketing and advertising through Peach Jar or electronically this Facebook. And I was been very overly impressed with how many people we have participated. We've had over 2,000 participants in all of our summer programs. Over the same period last year, we had about 3,400. So we aren't too bad considering how many people without formally advertising all of our programming and going through many changes of how we had to operate in different modes and doing a 1-to-9 ratio for inside classes, no more than 25 people in a class outside, changing our pool, starting swimming lessons with private swimming lessons and only 4 instructors with 4 people at a time, moving to small group lessons with 4 students and 1 teacher, and 4 students, 1 teacher per class. And then our staff could not touch students. So parents for the younger kids had to get into the water I did see last week we had a very nice article in the Monticello Times about swimming lessons and how we had to do swimming lessons differently this summer. So we did get a lot of people through swimming lessons that wanted to participate. We also did a good job of working with our youth sports groups who wanted to use our facilities. So getting swim club through and them getting practice, working with our high school coaches to get their athletes in throughout and doing their programs, and allowing them to make modifications as we got different changes from the state of Minnesota. It's also been an adventure doing Magic Adventures this summer with having very low ratios, no field trips, no leaving the building. Everybody has to be clustered together and potted together every day. So we had over 111 kids participating in summer childcare, which is not that much less than we had last summer. They were all at Eastview. So I haven't heard too many issues of kids being bored with each other because they are stuck together for most of the summertime with the same group of kids, which is what we normally don't do. But we have to do what keeps them safe. We did not have Northwest Talent Academy this year. That was a very tough decision to not have that, but that is very hands-on and interactive, and we just could not figure out how to make that work. So we're hopeful that we can have that. We'll go again for next year, as long as we can return to some normalcy by the spring or summer of next year. And as we transition to the fall, we are very well prepared for our stuff to keep doing how we've been operating for the summertime. Our parents it just show that people do want to participate. They don't want to be cooped up all the time. So we have a mix of things that make people want to get out and socialize. So I was very pleased. We also did make and take projects every week for families that want to do enrichment style stuff but didn't want to go into a classroom setting. Those have been well received since the spring, and we keep doing those. So we have a whole mix of in-person and out-of-person activities to keep people engaged in the summer the best we can. Any questions?
Any questions?
I think Community Ed's redefining what they do. I mean, it's exactly what you watch with the most successful businesses and eventually school systems across the nation. Anybody who's willing to step up and truly look inside and redefine, those are the ones that are going to flourish, and Community Ed's doing that. So great job.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
Mr. Colwell, you're up.
All right, I'm gonna also just give you an update. We have a summer adventure program, which is funded through Targeted Services, which is still going as well. They are in their third week right now, and they've had a theme. I'm going to give you a couple names of people that you've probably heard before, but the past 6 or 7 years, we've had 3 people that have really built our summer adventure program, and it's always been on site. They've done a fantastic job getting kids involved. And this year, when I went to them to say, do you think you can pull this off in a virtual format, they were all over it. They didn't hesitate. And these people are Rocky Stein. She's a math teacher at the middle school. Her husband, Mike Stein, who's also a math teacher by trade, but he's now our STEM teacher. And Peter Berquist. I cannot take any credit for anything they've done this summer. They've done an outstanding job putting together a program every year, and this year is not any different. They've done a fantastic job getting kids involved through a virtual format, but yet maintaining kind of the project-based ideas that they've always had. So it's typically been a STEM theme, a math theme, and they always weave in some literacy and some reading kind of components to it. And traditionally, they've done 3 weeks in a row in June. This year, they decided to do 1 week in June, 1 week in July, and right now being their third week in August. And they asked for some commitment because they put together a number of kits and bought some supplies, and they wanted parents and kids to know that if you're going to, agree to this, that you're worth our time, and we're going to buy this stuff and we're going to send it to you. So Hoagland's delivers those things and has all summer. The week prior, and that's gone very well. They've had different themes throughout the summer, such as beekeeping. They had a connection to a professional beekeeper, and they did an on-site kind of tutorial with him virtually. They've had a camping or survival theme. They connected with a DJ, a professional DJ, and worked through acoustics and the science kind of a sound. Students made a smartphone speaker out of homemade materials and the kit that we sent them. And then this week they're working on creating Rube Goldberg machines, kind of those simple machines that complete a task with a bigger goal in mind. That, one task triggers the next one, and so forth. So they've had really good connections with kids and response from parents, oftentimes telling them that they have to slow their kids down. Like the kids want to do the whole week's worth of work on Monday or Tuesday and not wait for the rest of the group. So they've connected virtually and of course individually with the parents and the kids, and those people, I can't take any credit. They've done a fantastic job once again with the Summer Adventure program. In addition to that, before we left, we were talking about whether or not we wanted to keep the Chromebooks open this summer. Now, we knew kids were probably pretty burned out with screen time and distance learning and whatnot. But it was a staff idea kind of collectively that it would be neat for us to put together just a collection of optional activities on Schoology for any kids or parents that just wanted distraction during the summer. So we put a few windows of time when our Chromebooks would be open and available. Mike Danielson's worked with us to kind of lock them up at certain times. But the Schoology folder that was put together by staff, and all staff contributed, we called our Summer Boredom Busters. So this component was totally optional. And inside this folder are all the content areas, have different challenges and games and virtual tours and puzzles and different experiments online, virtual museum tours and whatnot. So that's the other component that we've had out there for kids and families. We've always listened to Dr. Mahoney about trying to balance our screen time. So this one actually is going to close up here in about a week, but it's been open for a while, and I can look at the analytics to kind of see on Schoology and GoGuardian who's doing what. And if you had to guess, with middle schoolers, which website do you think most middle schoolers spend the most time on? The answer would be YouTube. And so even though we have this folder available on Schoology, in the last week, for example, there were 100 kids that kind of dug into it, spent some time into it. There were over 2,000 hits in YouTube at the same time. So we're gonna scale back the screen time here, and we'll shut this down eventually for the remainder of the summer. But it's been something that's kind of just fun and optional for parents and kids that we just gave as an option. So between our Summer Adventure and then that Schoology folder, those were two programs we had run throughout the summer, and I think have gone very well, primarily because of the people who have put them together.
You pretend like you're not part of this, but you're a very humble man and an amazing leader, Mr. Coel, because I remember when you guys started building this Summer Adventure program as a principal, I was looking at this going, oh my gosh, that's what I've been trying to lead and trying to change. But the changes within the middle school program, and you said about 3 years now that you've been doing it within this format?
Yeah, I think it's actually been closer to 6.
Is it 6? Okay.
Involved. Yep.
I mean, it's just truly exact. It's that hands-on approach that you incorporated in the in-person for the last 5 years, and now this year you were able to ramp that up even with the distance learning, and like that is just so powerful. And once again, the collaboration with you and your teachers and the awesome product. I got to spend a little time, viewing some of the things that they did too, at least one of the days. So I tried to pop in at least one day to the programs, but yeah, you couldn't ask for more, and it gives us a sneak preview of what we can do, no matter what we are, asking our people to do, and we can do it, and we can do it well, and it's because of great teachers, great leaders. So, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Credit goes to the teachers, and then I can't not say happy birthday to Mr. Olson as well. I'm not sure everyone knew that, but just can't miss that. You're 45 and you're still in your prime, baby.
Yeah, right.
Well, happy birthday, Mr. Olson. You did sneak that one by us a little bit, or at least by me. So, but Matt, thank you for that. And this is really encouraging to see what we can do with distance learning. Should we be put in that position to do that again in our district, which it's possible. We all are aware of that. So seeing what you've done over the summer certainly gives us a lot to work with and look forward to should we be put in that situation again.
Yeah, our staff have done a great job thinking outside the box. You know, the things we've never done before, never had the opportunity to do. So it's just a testament to that creative thinking, I think, collectively.
Well, thank you so much again for everybody. Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
And we'll go on to Birthday Boy, operating levy presentation and discussion, which whoever has control of the name could change Mr. Olson's name to Birthday Boy. That would be
Please
great.
don't. I try to go under the radar. All right. Yeah, so just to try bring the operating levy to the forefront for us, I think it's important to just kind of look at where we're at right now and then balance where we're at with where we need to go. And some of that where we need to go is that deep, hard look at our financial situation. So next slide. Obviously, whenever you do something, it's really important for all of us to remember. I mean, think of the presentations that we just saw. Those people are giving credit to the people that they're in the trenches with. They're giving credit to the people who help build the programs. And same thing, here. Our district has lived its core beliefs and missions for years, and whether we repackage it into a circle or not, the former school boards, the former district administration has done an amazing job of building the capacity of this district. We've been on a great course of steady enrollment, and we should be proud of lots of things that we've been doing at the district. Next slide, please. Speaking of that, when I was talking to former superintendents, and one of them, Mr. Benedetto, and I were just really talking about, he talked about the Lions presentation. I'm trying to go around the community right now and make connections and ask questions about whether we should go for an operating levy or not. And after that presentation, he thanked me, said that a lot of people had questions, but they really felt like it went pretty well. And then he said, the school district doesn't do a good enough job about tooting our own horn. We've, even through struggling financial years or being underfunded from state and federal funding sources, we own our own high school. We own our own 2 elementaries. We own, most of, the Eastview except for the addition. And so at the high school, except for the high school multi-activity complex and some of the security enhancements, I mean, we're on course to own all these things. And for a school district our size and the advancements that we've made facility-wise, I think we really should be proud of that. And Mr. Benedetto brought that to my mind. Throughout the course of time, I mean, we've prided ourselves as a school board, as a district, to have amazing quality services and facilities, and we're proud of our staff. And while we build programs and continue to try to do our best with to manage within our budget confines, we really do grow some amazing programs to compete with all of our neighbors, and some of our neighbors are a lot bigger than us, so we should be proud of those. Next slide, please. I want Tina just to kind of, when you look at historically where we at with the levy, it's good to see what piece of the puzzle that our taxpayer has helped us with. They're a big piece of our puzzle.
So I just put together our total school tax levy beginning with the fall of 2007, so even prior to me. What does that look like for our residents? And hopefully from my truth in taxation presentations or other presentations you've heard, whether it's from me or somebody else, the school tax levy, a lot of it's not in our control. It's based on formulas, it's based on enrollment, it's based on legislation and what they pass. So in 2007, that was when a question was passed.
And then what I highlighted in orange was when our 2015 bond and operating question was passed. So in this 12-year span, our tax levy has been, pretty level, pretty stable. Our enrollment has a similar trend where it's been slow and steady. So some small increases, some decreases at times. And with our operating levy, we also have it where it increases with inflation. So if you kind of take all that in, we try to control what we can control and have our property tax levy be pretty stable and level for the residents. We do have a bigger jump in the 18 payable 19 year. That is when we passed the HVAC bond for our Pinewood Elementary building to improve that. We had A&I approved by the state, and that part of that aid was levy. And we also started our childcare. So part of that was with levy too. But the following year it dipped down again. Again, a lot of that was due to enrollment trends and getting that fixed, because with tax levy, you are basing it on estimates and you try to take your best guess on the enrollments coming in, and then it shakes out the following year. So there could be minor swings, but overall, it's pretty impressive, I think, for that 12 years in total, going up about 21%, or on average, 1.78% each year. So that's kind of inflation, maybe a little less. And again, I don't want to simplify it too much, because there's other things that happen. The state, offset with aid versus levy at times, but at least you can see the property tax levy. We're trying to minimize the swings and the changes as much as we can.
At any time, if you have any questions, I know, when Tina presents numbers, it's kind of nice to pause and chew on it a little bit, but any questions on this slide?
I don't have any questions, but I do really appreciate the visuals with this, Tina, because I know you've talked about some of this stuff before, but it really helps to see the trend and the lack of real high fluctuations or low fluctuations. So this really does help quite a bit. Thank you.
You're welcome.
She's great at adding that touch to, when asked her to look at this presentation, and just like it just had those things just missing. And so seeing that longitudinal approach at the great resourcefulness that our school board has been when they went to the taxpayer. It's not that we go and live above our means. We stay within our means. We continue to balance as tight a budget as we can, and as you guys can. So thank you. All right, next slide, please. I think 2020 is going to be a year to remember. It's a call to action for equity for all students. It's a world pandemic. Next slide, please. But while we envision and while we move forward with our call to action towards successfully navigating both the pandemic and our action to serve every kid every day, we also need to keep going back to that financial story that we can paint here in Monticello. We started to look at it when we look at the historical view of the levy, but we should also take a look at what else we're doing within Monticello's financial story. Next slide, please. Our story does reflect some of the some challenges that we have faced here, especially since 2017. In order to take control of our own finances and to balance our own books and not go to the taxpayer too quickly after the 2015 building bond and operating levy. There was one question with operating funds to that levy. We have had to make significant decisions within the regards to reducing the budget in order to balance our books. So in 2017, making a $900,000 budget adjustment. And then the next year after that, making a $2 million adjustment. And then 1920, making almost $300,000 budget alignment. Those are tough decisions. And while we appreciate the great things that we do here, we also are pretty quiet, and a lot of people don't even know, we in the community perhaps don't know that we were making those types of adjustments in order to meet the needs of our kids. And then just make it as a caveat, or making sure that our public understands that our 2015 building bond, obviously a big thank you. We do have state-of-the-art facilities, and the bond has been accounted for and appropriately used in a fiscally responsible manner. But we were able to add secure entrances and upgrade our security systems to keep kids safe and make sure that staff and students feel safe when they come to work, and parents send their children off to our schools. We're also able to bring a state-of-the-art activities complex that really is one that that makes that high school quite the spectacle, both for Friday night lights or for different football games on the other side, to track and field, to lacrosse and soccer, but also, even more importantly, when the community all comes together for graduation. The 2 years that we did an outdoor graduation out there truly is one of the best backdrops and spectacles in the state of Minnesota. So once again, a big thank you to our community for that support. But with all that being said, kind of next slide, please. I want to continue down the road that we are trying to take control of our finances, along with having to budget cuts in order to move our fund balance up. We also have been looking for extra funding sources. And so in 2018, we've added several new funding sources, which as a district we should be proud of. And they each account for some of them, several $100,000 coming our district. So our achievement integration plan, additional funding from the state, accounting for $220,000 a year. So when you reach out and do a call to equity and say that you're on a road of improvement, we can say that we've been on this road for improvement for going on our third year coming up here. Career technical education funding from the state to around $170,000 per year, and it was previously $45,000. So just digging in deeper, understanding what we can do, and getting people to open up our ways of doing business with the state has been really something phenomenal for our programming in the district. And then smaller things that they may seem small, but they continue to help our student needs. So SEL, taking care of our social emotional needs has been a focus of our district, and one that we should be all very proud of. Last year, trying something new in order to help a underserved population in our district come to light and really feel part of the planning in our district has been phenomenal to watch and see grow. And then we got to hear from the MIGAT summer program, and in their second year of existence. So that brings money to do those programs, which makes us more diversified to meet the needs of our students, whether they be our students all year or whether they are coming through our area and we can serve them to better their lives, I think is a testament to who we are as a school district. And then finally, a work experience grant that's going to be new this coming year, and it'll bring $80,000 in to give kids a new experience at our high school level, in hopes that we can connect them to being college and career ready and get on a path, a personal path that helps them succeed in life. And I know a lot of times we talk about being college ready, and we're really trying to make sure that emphasis is also on being career ready. So adding some programming like this will help our students get into the right place at the right time. Next slide, please. I think, as we are taking control of finances, I think it's important for our community to know that we are moving our fund balance the right way, up 2% in the past 2 years. And so we're up to 6%. Knowing that we've moved it to at least that 6% level, we did not have to make huge budget alignments this year, and that was a good feeling. I think having a year where you don't have to do those significant cuts is at least that feeling of coming back to school and knowing that not too much more besides a pandemic is going to be on our shoulders. But yeah, so we'll take it as it comes. But while trying to balance continued programming, we are working very hard to keep attractive programs, but we have made significant cuts, and that needs to be addressed. And we can do it in a fashion that is kind of slow and maybe not as guaranteed like we've been doing with some of our grants and some of our cuts. We have moved our fund balance the right way, and that's a testament to U6 as a school board. But there's also other ways that we can increase our revenue stream in a fashion that could have a community coming together in a shorter amount of time and bring significant money to our district. And so that's kind of what we're going to be here to talk about here tonight and have a discussion. Next slide, please. So if we continue on that slow curve or that slow path that we're on, even though our fund balance did come up to a level where we didn't have to cut this year, the budget is forecasting for another $1 million worth of cuts, and that was pre-COVID. So that was working through our budget, like I said, pre-COVID. Coming up this coming spring, we would have to start to align that budget for the following school year. Next slide. And I think we have, as a school board, have to ask ourselves, at what expense does that come if we have to continue down on a budget alignment approach without trying something new and something different. So what would that difference be? What are some things that the school district has needed? Well, as we've been making those significant cuts, it has affected our classroom, and so that ultimately affects our students. And so we need to look at our class sizes. We need to look at that social emotional learning further, rather than just small little grants and using our capital money to increase and purchase new curriculum for the first time, which we have done in the last year. We also need to look at people, and so that the burden of trying to help all children succeed with their social emotional developmental needs doesn't lie solely on the classroom teacher. And so adding social workers and counselors can really boost that. Like I talked about with that work experience coordinator, we need to continue to look at career exploration programs to better prepare children and young adults. So all the way through, looking at exposure to having students being engaged and excited about many different career paths. Another thing we could do as a school district is, for years, we've had an increased walking route. Our length of our bus rides on outlying areas have approached that hour limit. And so looking at some of those outlying areas to help our students have a more equitable approach to how they arrive to school could be a phenomenal feeling for families and a much more safe approach to getting to school. And then looking at technology and how we are, right now we will receive some CARES dollars, so we will be putting some technology into the hands of our students. But Are we prepared to continue that technology? Are we prepared to have the infrastructure uphold the amount of technology that we're going to be adding with some of that CARES dollars? And all these things are questions that we should be asking ourselves and potentially asking our community to support. And then a couple of last things is, should we look at reducing the activity fees? So if we are able to increase and enhance our opportunities for our kids, will that be more equitable for families who may not be able to afford it? Or will it help keep students engaged and make them more part of our school system? All questions to continue to ask ourselves. And then, should we continue to look at all support positions, not just the counselors and social workers, but what else do we need to support academics, social emotional learning, and safety and security for all? Next slide, please. So last two, just looking at how to lead into a discussion, but we could address the needs with a new operating levy and adding a 1,299 operating levy per student, which is up 475 from the 824, that operating levy that was added in 2015. It would help support the items of need that we just talked about. That amount of money asked for on an operating levy would equate to a little more than $6 million of additional referendum revenue. Next slide. And last slide before the discussion, but obviously because of one of the very first slides that Ms. Burkholder, our business director, talked about, but she looked at that longitudinal support of our income-based operating levy over the years, and we have to ask ourselves and balance our needs and have that deep discussion of is this the right time? Is this an amount that as a school board that we can bring forth to our community? And today's presentation to spark that conversation and have a little bit of discussion here tonight. And then our deadline would be shortly after that August 17th board meeting. So we would have to make that decision by August 17th in order to meet the timelines in statute. So I leave this dollar amount up as this is what we would be asking our homeowners and property owners to share the burden in bringing in additional revenue to our school district. So market value on the left side, gross increase to a person's taxes with that estimated market value, and then what would that be per month? And then last slide. So as a course of action, I have been presenting to organizations and will continue to do so all the way through August 17th in the fall if needed. And just want to be able to have an open discussion at the board level in order to see where everybody's at prior to our August 17th board meeting.
Mr. Olson, were you looking to have a discussion about it right now?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has any thoughts on and would like to just have a little bit of thoughts out there. So we are gathering our new format like this is the good thing about this format is that we, even at 5:45, we had 100 people watching, and that's what we were at, or that's what we had last meeting. And so I think and I think the community, that are online right now and maybe saw this as a agenda item. I think the new electronic format gives people a easy access to be able to jump on. So a little bit of thoughts now, and then obviously further discussion on August 17th, obviously will be greatly needed.
My thoughts on it would be that over the years, the board, I'll speak, and Jeff can too, historically as an older, more experienced board member, this district has always been really responsible with our taxpayers' money. And that's something that I've been proud of as a school board member, to be considerate in how we spend our taxpayers' money that we're given. And the reality is education is expensive and we are continually underfunded. And all of that being said, we want to have an incredible district, which we do have, and we do amazing things for our kids all the time. But it's getting harder, and cutting, there's nowhere to cut where it doesn't hurt. And that, as far as going out for a referendum, there's never a great time, because it's a hard time in the economy right now. We understand that, but not going out for it and asking and just seeing where we are isn't something we can necessarily take a chance on either. So that's my thought on the referendum, is that I believe our district are really great stewards with the money that we're given, and education's underfunded. So we wish we never had to come ask for money in a perfect world. But looking at what we potentially have to cut and how that would affect students is pretty tough to stomach as well.
Anybody else have any initial thoughts?
I'm only going to say something because Jill called me old. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but
I think I said more experienced.
No, I think you said old.
I was talking about myself, sir. But anyway,
that's all right.
You go.
It's okay. If that's the worst thing you call me tonight, that'll be okay.
Okay.
Obviously, if you look at, we've tried very, very hard for many years with the school board to keep our levy very flatline, so people's taxes weren't going up and down a lot, from one year to another. And there's been a lot of years where we've kept our levy pretty neutral, and we could have used more dollars through the operating levy, but we chose not to, simply because we felt it was important for our taxpayers to try to keep that levy neutral and not take big jumps or dips. So I think that's very important for people to understand, that we have tried to be wise and very good stewards of the district's money. I think if you look at the last referendum, we were very fortunate how it worked out and the dollars we were able to put into our schools. But if I think you look around the schools, I think you can see that the dollars are put in very good places and used very wisely. Our technology is a never-ending thing that we continually have to stay on top of, especially if you look this year. I mean, we'll go into this fall with every single child in this district having some type of device. So I mean, as far as that goes, I think that's a pretty amazing thing, that our district will have a child with a device in their home that they can use at any time that they need. I mean, a huge concern I think that we have to be looking at is our classroom sizes. Wonderful thing with our previous referendum is we were able to keep our class sizes down. And if you look at the last 2 to 3 to 4 years, when people have come forward with assessments and they've showed a decline that we've taken in our assessments, I think a large contributor to that, or our results, a large contributor to that is our classrooms are bigger. And I think it's just common knowledge that if you can have a smaller classroom, your kids will learn better. The teachers can spend more time, create more relationships, and everything in the big picture turns out to be better. You look at what we want to provide as far as mental health for our students. It's a changing world, and and we can't get behind on providing mental health. And I think if you look right now, we're probably behind where we need to be to provide quality mental health for our students and counseling and that sort of thing. And what it does is when we can provide the quality mental health for our students, then it takes more off of everybody else's plate to help them do their jobs correctly and properly and do them efficiently. So I think the things that we're kind of talking about, looking at, are important. It's an investment in our community is what we're trying to do right now. And we're trying to improve our investment, continue to be proud of our schools. And we have great schools right now, we do, but we just want to continue to try and make them better. And I think this referendum would help us do that and not allow us to go backwards. There's mine.
Well said, Mr. Hagley.
Thank you, Eric and Tina, for all the work that you put into this. You know, we've been seeing for the last couple of years since I've been on the board, and same with Candace and Melissa, we got on and had to deal with the $2 million cuts right away. And with Tina's budget reports almost every month, we've been seeing the budget forecast and that we have a looming cut of another $1 million. And it's felt like, you know, we need to do something to address it. And yeah, it's hard to do it right now with so much uncertainty in the world, but I don't think we can wait, because that other $1 million cut's going to be devastating to the district. We've already increased class sizes and gone without, and I do think we're going to need to go for the operating levy and hopefully be able to avoid the budget cuts and improve our programming.
All right, well, thank you everyone for your input. Mr. Olson, do we want to continue on to the resolution to approve support for border-to-border access grant program?
Yeah. Before I do that, I just want to say thank you for your open conversation, and we'll have another one at the next meeting. That just says a lot about who you guys are as a board. I feel just absolutely so proud to work for you guys, and to know that, you know, the knowledge that you guys have as a board and what you've been through is really diverse, and you've been able to meet those challenges. So you're doing great, and I know it's a big decision. Like Jennifer just said, it's a hard time, but yet I think it's also a time that we don't want to define ourselves by not doing what we feel in our hearts that we need to do. So thank you. And then with the resolution of support for border-to-border broadband, Becker approached us and asked if we would sign a petition with them. And so how this works is, at the next special session, which the governor does have to have another special legislative session, there is something on the floor. And what's on the floor is broadband development improvement, which is a $15 million grant to fund both Sherburne and Wright County that are underserved with broadband. And so that's on the floor. And so when they do come back with the next special session, MSBA said that instead of just Becker doing it, it would be a lot more powerful to stand with other school districts. So they approached us and asked if we would be willing to read a resolution. And if it were to pass, it would just mean that we as a school district in one of these counties support this action, in hopes that it could, spearhead a broadband increase in this area for that $15 million worth of grants to our two counties. So if it's something that you, that's what I know about it. There is no, financial implications or obligations for us. It truly is a more political move to align ourselves together in order to put pressure on the next legislative session to continue discussion on this topic.
anybody have any questions or concerns on this? If not, it is a resolution to be read.
Now therefore be it resolved that the School District of Monticello Board of Education hereby endorses the Border to Border Broadband Access Grant Program and supports their efforts to increase broadband access throughout the state of Minnesota.
Second, this is Missy.
Motion made by Jennifer Lewis Canigator, second by Missy Hanson. All those in favor say aye by roll call. Melissa,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Missy,
Aye.
Candy,
Aye.
and Jill, aye. Motion passes 6-0. Resolution passes 6-0. Mr. Revnig, resolution to approve co-op agreements.
Good evening. The Minnesota State High School League requires that school districts go to their school board for approval for all co-ops annually. Monticello School District, we currently have 5 co-ops. As you can see them on the agenda, we've got our 3 adaptive sports that we partner with Buffalo and St. Michael, and that's adaptive soccer in the fall. In the winter, we have adaptive floor hockey, and in the spring, adaptive softball. And then we have our 2 hockey teams in the winter. The Monticello Moose, we co-op with Maple Lake, and the River Hawks, our girls hockey program, we co-op with St. Michael. The reason we co-op is to provide these opportunities for our student athletes that we may not be able to if we were just standing on our own. So when we need to, we go into a co-op so that we can provide these activities for our students.
All right. That seems pretty straightforward. Does anybody have any questions? If not, it is an action item.
I move to approve the co-op agreements for the adaptive floor hockey, adaptive softball, adaptive soccer, boys hockey, and girls hockey.
Second.
Motion made by Jennifer Lewis Canigator, second by Candace Carta. All those in favor by roll call. Missy,
Aye.
Jennifer,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Candy,
Aye.
and Jill, aye. Resolution passes 6-0. On to Ms. Wilson. Barb, 2021 Monticello Schools COVID plan updates.
All right. I'm going to give a very brief overview of our work session from last Friday, in which we presented a very draft plan of what's been happening with COVID preparations for the upcoming school year. So as we heard about from MDE last Thursday, all school districts are being asked to be able to move between 3 modes of learning: the face-to-face learning mode. At this level, students would be face-to-face in school every day. We talked about special services assessing students and designing individual plans, and there will be some additional guidance coming to our special educators on that. And we also talked about options for our PK5 students, and that we could include some outdoor education with that mode of learning. Then we move into hybrid learning, and when face-to-face learning is not advisable for health and safety reasons, we'll engage in hybrid mode. This mode would decrease our capacity of students, so we'd have fewer students in the building at any specific time at the middle school and the high school level, and would just require us to have a 50% capacity per fire code. And by using hybrid learning, we would have a lot more opportunities to continue to develop and work on relationships with our students, And it would also give us more time and more opportunity to provide interventions and extensions and support to students. So we do have plans in place with our cohort of distance learning teachers to train all of our teaching staff in hybrid learning strategies that are effective. This would involve a lot more use of technology. And so we're really working towards improving our hybrid learning model. In distance learning, that would take place when the conditions related to COVID would become more intense at our county level or at our local level. And all students at this, in this mode would be distance learning. We want to do this better than we did in the spring. And so we do have plans in place for additional devices for students, improving access points, and then again, training for best practice instruction to take place while distance learning is the mode of operation that we're kind of thrown into. In each of these modes of learning, regardless, we will have extra safety precautions in place that will be enforced. Things like masks, self-reporting checklists for staff and for parents, quarantine guidelines and response guidelines, and ongoing daily cleaning in all of these modes will be required. And we've got a lot of our support staff on track to make those things happen. And again, we just need to be ready to move between all three of these modes as numbers indicate is wise.
Barb, I heard you talk about hybrid learning at the middle school and high school. Did you say how it is at the elementary school compared to face-to-face?
Face-to-face in the elementary school will lead to us kind of shuffling kids so that K-5 students can still be face-to-face, but we will reallocate staff so that we can have groups of students at a number that's advisable at 50% occupancy. So there will be adjustments made, but we will try to have as much face time with K-5 as would be allowed.
Right. I wanted to make sure that if we do, if we have an audience watching, that they understand the hybrid learning at the elementary school has differences, but it still has students, all of the students in the building every day.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. That's good.
So I just want to make sure when parents are making decisions that they understand, but I've a lot to cover that you've been doing, Barb. So thank you so much on that.
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying. It's important. So some of the things that we covered in our work session on Friday, we shared modified building schedules. We've talked a lot about modified building schedules by level, and just some changes in daily routines, regardless of the mode, just to reinforce safety and health for our staff and our students. And again, discuss the requirements for plans for our special education students. We reviewed some technology improvement initiatives, and especially some training and support for learning and instruction in all three modes really, but focusing on hybrid and distance. We discussed the complexity and challenges of transportation plans for all students, but we're well underway with that, working with Hoagland Bus. We reviewed some steps that have already been taken by Buildings and Grounds, and also talked about some additional plans to make and maintain buildings that are safe and usable for staff and students. And we discussed some practices for food services. They will have some changes to preparation of meals, delivery, tracking of who meals are served to. And we also discussed the need to provide drinking water options for students while they were in school. We talked and reviewed health expectations for staff and families, and that really forms the district's preparedness plan that's required by MDE and MDH. So we covered as much as we could of the basic plans for health expectations. And with all of that, we also had a lot of good conversations that lead us to some next steps and some still to-dos. So we're going to continue to work on some of these things and other things as well after our Friday work session. We are surveying staff and parents right now. The survey to staff went out last Friday, and our goal is to match up staff requests with family requests and student need. And we're hoping for some good matches there so that we can have some win-wins and keep our students, meet their needs, and also keep staff in a mode that they're comfortable with for instruction. We are holding meetings with staff for input and for planning. We talked really briefly on Friday just about some additional parameters to the county numbers for decision making. So things like staff health, availability of appropriate substitutes, things along that line that we still have yet to kind of address, and we're starting to work through some of that. We talked about a structure for welcome back days that would allow us to work with small groups or even family groups of students and parents to get them back, bring them back in, talk with them, meet with them, do some assessment during that first week of students back in the building. Would have some kind of more personalized meetings with teachers just to reconnect. We also are busy preparing devices for new staff, and new devices are ordered. And as they arrive, they have to be prepared for our students and staff. So we've got a lot going on in the IT department. And again, are really focused on what kind of training we can do to support our teachers in the distance and the hybrid learning modes. That's a big goal that we're really working with teacher leaders to provide better support and direction in that area. We talked a lot about food services, but we also have to figure out the scheduling and the staffing for food services at each site, depending on if we will be going to a different schedule for students coming down to lunch, or if we're going to be doing some delivery. The who's, the how's, the where's are still details that need to be all worked out. We need to work with the teacher union on the sick leave bank. And we did meet with the teacher union again today and talk about substitutes, schedules, some things like that. So we will continue to make every effort to do this work collaboratively with our staff. And another thing that came up last Friday was that we really have to think about and fine tune our building schedules to reduce the possibility of COVID spread through congregating students or parents at drop off or pickup or in halls passing. There's still some details that we're working out and talking through. And it's really helpful to have the staff coming in and taking another look at some of these issues too. They have great ideas for us, so we'll keep doing that. So the plan right now is to continue to work on all of these and to get something out to staff by this Friday, August 7th, that will at least give them an outline of what the plans are for each of the modes, and then to parents on August 10th. Those remain our target dates to get this information out. So work in progress. Do you have other questions or want me to clarify anything else?
Thank you for all of the work on this. I know the information on this came out very shortly, and that was what, an 89-page report that that was a lot of information to weed through, which I have not been able to read all of it yet. So that was a great deal of information to kind of put into a plan with the knowledge that all of us know, not just school staff, but everybody knows that it's unfolding. So it is always kind of recalibrating every week as numbers change and things like that. So thank you for doing this. This was really well laid out. I do have one question that I was posed is some parents have asked, which I think I know the answer to, but since Eric had said there's quite a few people on here that listen, it's kind of nice to know parents that have asked if they typically, if they're going to start with one mode, whether it be distance learning or something like that, if they can progress to maybe an in-face kind of a thing. I guess how would somebody hypothetically progress through maybe starting at home and then moving into classroom or vice versa?
Again,
Yeah.
go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, the good thing is we do have both a district team and then we have a regional liaison that has been assigned to us that we will work and can work with, and also to look at countywide data. And so the data is really what would allow us to move from one scenario to the next, and then that support and suggestions from the state and their guidance and how they believe it is safe for us to move from one mode of instruction to the next. So yeah, and the good thing about how our teams have been planning is that we've been trying to create a model that will provide the most consistency possible. So even within in-person and hybrid, trying to clearly identify the same or very, very, very similar schedule. So it's not disrupting people's work schedules. They can count on a set amount of time for the school start time and the same time for school dismissal. Just the only difference would be at the secondary level that it might be a 2-day per week in person and then a 3-day per week distance learning mode. So that's the difference at the secondary level between in-person and hybrid. And then, like I said, the similar times across all levels hopefully will provide our families the consistency that they need. But we will use the county data and county liaison to help make decisions that best meet the needs of our safety of our people.
And Candace, just to add a little bit to you, if a parent is picking just distance learning, that's what they want, the mode they want is to do distance learning all the time. We're asking parents to make a decision for a quarter at a time so that we can hook kids up with teachers that would be consistent and supportive of them. However, we will be flexible also. And, we want our kids to be successful and we want it to work for families. And we, as we've all been talking about, this is a very fluid process. So our ask would be at least a quarter at a time if you're opting into a mode. And then we would consider special conditions as we needed to if as the situation required.
The question I have, Eric and Barb, I guess it's more of a concern. So it kind of, if I'm understanding this correctly, we could be changing our modes of operation determined by a 2-week survey test by the county, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So let's say, for example, something takes place in Buffalo and they have a number of high positive tests for COVID. Those numbers are obviously going to affect what we have to do. Is that correct?
Well, there is 2 pieces of, if you look real close at this Minnesota State plan, it's not only county data, but they also do look at local information. So if the spike is very isolated and they can trace that all to one source of isolation, they could allow and or recommend that we could move to a level that is maybe not projected by the county data. So it's not just only county data. There is the caveat of looking at very specific, isolated pieces of information that help make the decision as well.
Okay. Then my other concern is obviously this could get kind of crazy. I mean, at what point do we say as a district, you know what, this is what's working well for us and we need to stay with this? And what I mean by that is that, so are we going to find out Sunday afternoon that we're being told we have to switch to a new mode of education? And then we have parents out there from noon on Sunday till Monday morning. They're trying to figure out how they're going to distance learn, their, help with distance learning for their children at home, or how is this going to work? I mean, are they going to look at a test and say, okay, you've exceeded this and now you need to change your mode of operation? We'll give you 2 weeks to transition into that and then make preparations. Or, I mean, Monday morning, are we just, hey, here's Superintendent Olson's happy Monday morning message, just so you know, don't get on the bus today because we're all learning from home today for the next 2 weeks until some new numbers come out. I mean, is there a plan that the governor has sent to us and said this is how it's going to work, or are we just kind of waiting for that?
I think some of the bigger districts are using that lens to develop a more consistent approach to it. But that consistent approach can be the most restrictive. And that's the part that's hard for school districts that are able to move potentially a little bit quicker, because as a school system across the nation, we all know that in person is the best mode of instruction. We just practiced distance learning for the very, very first time in our history of Monticello schools, as did many schools. And in order to say that would be our best mode of education for our kids, I guess would be pretty bold for us to say that right now. Does that mean that we're not trying? We're trying to build it though. Yeah.
And I understand that we can't be making a decision that we're only go with full in class or anything like that. We need to understand where our parents are thinking right now, and that not only are they trying to prepare for what's coming up for their children, but I mean, we have a large district where we have 2 parents that work, and we can't flip on them in a matter of 2 days and say, we're changing everything we're doing simply because of this. I think the state needs to we need to look to the state for some guidelines as far as a time frame of, if we do have a high number of COVID tests, what does the state expect from us, and what do they expect from us, how quickly to transition in this new mode of operation? I don't think it's being fair to even our teachers, or even you guys as administrators, to think all of a sudden you have to come back on Sunday afternoon. You found out that our numbers were high. Now we need to make changes on delivering instruction on Monday. I mean, how do you do that?
I've dug pretty deeply into the guidance from the state that just came out and what they previously put out earlier in the summer. With the 14-day case rate, it appears to come out on Thursdays. Mm-hmm. So my question was, could we at least have a decision by Friday so parents can have a weekend if that next week we need to change modes?
Absolutely.
I know that because we have a significant population in Sherburne County as well as Wright County, we're supposed to be looking at data from both counties and go with the higher one, though there are those caveats for the isolated outbreaks to work with. And then I don't know if this is something the state expects us to assess every single week when new numbers come out and then adjust accordingly. Part of the guidance does suggest that if you have to go to distance learning, you should be there for at least 2 to 3 weeks, and then consider going back to hybrid for 28 days before going to full in person. But that was a suggestion, not you have to do it this way. So I've got a lot of the same questions Jeff does as far as how does this look from a logistical standpoint.
And I think as a school board, like you guys, like let's say, and let me start by saying, look, you're asking the right questions. And we're trying to develop a system ahead of time that helps answer those so that people don't have to worry about them each week, even though we will address them each week. But because elementary is on hybrid schedule, the same schedule for hybrid and in person, our families at the elementary level, which is the one that is the most critical for daycare, would be on the same schedule for either scenario. And so then that takes that whole, that whole daycare piece out, because we're doing the same thing for our students in elementary. And I think that's a big component for us, and a big, it's a big reason why our administration wanted that. They were thinking through the lens of being a parent. And then, I also want, everyone to know that, as we move forward, let's say, right now, and we are to assume the worst, right? That's how you prepare to be prepared. But, the data is going to show what we do. And so you might get into a spot as a school board where you're not happy with what, with the stats and the data that is in our county. And if we have to change one time, that might be too much for you. But I think we are preparing to handle that in accordance with the state, and our 3 plans will be highly developed according to the state. And then we make those decisions when they happen, because they happened. We prepare for them ahead of time, but I don't know that we should go into the most restrictive mode when our data has never been there yet. It has never been in the most restrictive mode yet through COVID times. So from March till now, we've never been in the most restrictive. We would have always been either in-person or in-person hybrid. And so although we prepare for the worst, our data has not shown that we have ever hit that level. And so I think it's a good discussion now, but it's also a good reality to continue to use data.
I think what's going to be important through all of this is, while we know educating students in front of their teacher is the most ideal way to educate a child, a teenager, a young adult, we can never get away from the fact that the reality is we are still living in a pandemic, and we are going to have to deal with living with the unexpected. And so I think that as a district, we will always do our best to serve the needs of parents and children, always. That will be a priority. But we also are living in a world that is like something we've never seen. And we have to, everybody, parents, students, teachers, administrators, school board, everyone has to be prepared for what we won't know that's possibly thrown at us. And it won't be anyone's fault for what happened, what comes at us. So I would ask for the community's patience and support, and for the teachers, the administrators, the school board to go, everybody here wants to do the best thing for students. And again, I say we are living in a pandemic, and we have to be prepared for the unexpected all the time. So that's just my thought. On that note, if we don't have anything else, do we have some, Candy? Are you trying to talk?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm sorry, I have a headset on. But I do appreciate all the communication that's coming to the parents. The survey and everything I think is wonderful. That really helps because it bridges that communication gap and also gives the school a good information, insight into what the parent is thinking, especially when you leave the little comments at the end. I would love kind of to see those at some point, so that we could share those, because I'm sure a lot of parents are thinking many things, and keeping that communication open is how we're going to get through all of this.
Okay, well, we'll just keep working at our next steps. And I know we all appreciate hearing from the board, hearing the questions you have. It it makes us better. It makes us think ahead. It helps guide our final decisions. So I really just want to encourage you to keep asking those good questions too. So thank you for listening and for being active in this. So we feel like we really are working together to do, as Jill said, the best that we can all the way around.
Ditto.
All right. Well, that being said, it is 7:34, so we call for an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Melissa Curtis, second by Jennifer Lewis Canigator. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Melissa?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Missy?
Aye.
Candy?
Aye.
And Jill. Motion to adjourn at 7:35 passes 6-0. Okay, so we'll all sign off of this and we will have a work session in about 5 minutes.
Sounds good. And everyone knows which link to use, right?
No, what link is that?
It should
Is
be
it on the agenda?
It should be on the agenda, and it's the same link
Oh, okay.
that we're, yeah.
Thank you.